Yes, hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing day. Welcome back and happy Friday. I hope your week was tremendous and outstanding and you accomplished all the things you set your mind to. We accomplished a lot here, read through a lot of briefs, including Jack Smith's 165 pager that dropped earlier in the week. But we're not done yet. There's even more that has come out today, and I'm excited to get into it with you. Looks like the tubes have connected. That's tremendous. We've got an update. Let's get into a preview on what we're talking about today. You see, we've got a new lawsuit we're excited to read through. What's up, John Solomon? He is the purveyor of Just the News, and they've got a report here from Natalia, and I saw this from others, but it's a fun one because we've got 5 GOP representatives, 5 Republicans in Pennsylvania who are suing the Secretary of State. Now, this guy's a Republican, but not really, maybe kind of. He was also appointed by Governor Josh Shapiro. And so I've got the lawsuit pulled up. We'll read through it, filed in federal court, Middle District of Pennsylvania. It's a 35-pager, and it's 5 representatives suing their Secretary of State because they're talking about a directive. And we've been here explaining, pounding the table for a long time about how this works. They don't actually violate the law. They just change it ever so slightly via directives and manuals and procedures and how they implement it, right? And we saw this. We're not changing the signature laws or changing how that works. No, we're just, when we're looking at signatures, applying a presumption. So it's like the manual for the laws. And in this, they change how this works. And so here what has happened in Pennsylvania is the Secretary of State, a so-called Republican, has made a directive that when these out-of-state votes come in, that they will not actually verify the ID on them, saying that you can't reject it if the numbers don't match up with a federal database. And so you've got House Republicans, right? These are Congresspeople in the United States House of Representatives who are suing in Pennsylvania to get this thing to be stopped. And it's always something with them. It's always so sneaky. I don't know why they think that this is appropriate, but we'll go through it. We'll learn a little bit more about who this guy is, Al Schmidt, and why he's on the receiving end of this. And we're happy to see that some Congress people are jumping in and bringing this attention to light. So that's coming up. Then we're going to turn our attention to a border update. You can see the Biden-Harris border crisis document here has been released from the Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan at the helm there. And this is a heck of a headline. You can see it says at least 1.7 million potential national security threats. That's a lot. That's almost 3 full Wyomings full of national security threats roaming around the country, which is bad. That's a lot. That's a big number. And so we've got an executive summary here. We'll read through just how bad Joe Biden and Kamala are, how many people have been watch listed and more, and see what is inside this juicy report that just got dropped yesterday, is what I meant to say. Then in our final segment, we'll get an update on what's going on with this hurricane because, man, it's been spicy on X today. Elon and Booty have been getting into it, and it's been pretty interesting to watch. Of course, Buttigieg, the Department of Transportation secretary, must be off paternity leave or whatever because he's now back on X, and he's responding to Elon. Elon is ripping him a new one because he's been in charge, Elon, of bringing some calm and some safety and some communication via Starlink to the citizens of America, his fellow citizens, unlike he actually cares about them, unlike anybody from the Harris administration. But in the midst of Elon helping, apparently they're being told not to help. They're actively being blocked is what Elon says. Okay. FEMA is actively blocking Elon in his efforts. Well, what happened is Booty came off of paternity leave and he came on X and he responded and he said, "Hey, Elon, If you've got a problem with me, buddy boy, just give me a call. And Elon responded. And so we'll zoom in on this and see if they were able to have a conversation. So that's a lot of fun. Then we've got other hurricane reaction, because we've been speculating about this on our members only streams in the morning, talking about, it's very interesting how, you never let a crisis go to waste. That's not our words. That's Rahm Emanuel's words from Barack Obama. And then we know how badly they exploited COVID. You never let that crisis go to waste. So around and around we go. We have a new crisis with Hurricane Helene. And we've been monitoring the different counties that are red counties, which ones are getting actual help from the federal government, which counties are being slow rolled, and more. And then David Axelrod shows up, and he's now playing the election game. Obviously, right? The election's like a month away. So asking questions, how is this going to impact turnout? And we released another segment, if you missed it, going through North Carolina law and explaining how there were exceptions in their laws that allowed people to essentially just file an affidavit and vote without voter ID. So what party is going to be exploiting that? I wonder. So we'll listen to what Axelrod had to say himself, from the man himself, and then we'll see what FEMA is doing. FEMA is out also trying to curtail the spread of false information. So don't be so anti-government out there, okay? They're amazing. And they're going to give you whatever you need, says this lady over from FEMA. Rumor response team. And I hope they're actually going to deliver, because that would be nice of our government to serve our citizens rather than foreign citizens in foreign lands. Now, Trump was also out talking about this. He is railing on it, saying that they are taking American money and giving it to illegal aliens, calling it total mismanagement, saying this money and these funds should be used to help our people in America. Now, one person who only kind of sort of cares about America is Lindsey Graham. He's more concerned about Israel, right? He's really concerned over there. It's much worse over there. So whatever, North Carolina, figure it out. So we'll listen to him. And then Matt Gaetz is all over this. He is demanding answers on a $1.4 billion of money that was sent over to illegal aliens. And so he fired a letter off that we'll look at before we turn our attention to Cory Mills, who is there and posted an update on day 3 of the cleanup. So we'll listen to an update from Cory Mills from 2 days ago, and see if he's got anything newer while we wait. But this is where we're going to go today, my friends. It's a beautiful Friday. Hopefully you've accomplished all the items on your to-do list. Your email inbox is looking empty, and that stack of mail has been attended to. We're excited to be here with you to close out the week. Before we get into any of this business on the day, we got to remember our history, including Event 201. You remember that? It was just before the election. There was Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, and Johns Hopkins. They ran a pandemic situation, and then months later, COVID hit, right? Here we go again. They're doing what feels like the same thing. They've got a new bird flu summit that's coming up, and the playbook feels the same. It's election season, create chaos, make everybody freak out, like an October surprise. Now, last time we were caught off guard when this happened, but now we have a proven solution to protect our families and ourselves. It's the Wellness Company and their medical emergency kit. And every home in America should have at least one of these, because it's packed with a bunch of good stuff. Ivermectin, amoxicillin, even a Z-Pack, and it's backed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. So you can picture this. No more frantic searches running around looking for a doctor. No more waiting rooms. Just a few clicks. Boom. This puppy gets delivered to your door. And so in times like these, it's a necessity to get a kit like this. Protect your family now. Head over to twc.health/Robert and use code Robert when you check out. You'll save $30. Don't wait until it's too late. Act now. twc.health/Robert. Use code Robert. You'll save $30, and there's free shipping. So grab the link down in the description below and get protected, my friends. And thanks for supporting our sponsors, our friends at the Wellness Company. All right, and so without any further ado, we know where we're going today. So let's zoom in on this puppy and figure out what the heck is going on in Pennsylvania, a very important swing state. 5 U.S. House Republicans are now filing a lawsuit in Pennsylvania to get to the bottom of an interesting directive from the Secretary of State. We've seen this happen before, where the rules are changed in the implementation of the election procedures. And that's how they rig it to just cut to the chase. They don't change the statutes. They just implement things that benefit them. And we'll explain exactly what's going on. 5 Republicans are calling this out. So they filed a lawsuit. Here are the Republicans from Pennsylvania. Reschenthaler, Musser, Thompson, Smucker, and Kelly all filed a lawsuit. It's in federal court. And they're challenging different directives. When you are out of state, when you file a UOCAVA ballot, which is an overseas ballot or a military ballot, a uniformed overseas citizen, somebody who's not here, the voter must generally provide a social security number or an ID number, driver's license number, something, right? A number on the form so we can make sure you are who you say you are, the number. But in Pennsylvania, this so-called Republican Secretary of State issued a directive that states when these forms come in, it's like a manual. Okay, here's what the law says. Well, that's kind of what it doesn't say. What do I do when the form, like the law doesn't explain what happens when a form comes in and doesn't. So the directive, the manual says, well, Pennsylvania and federal law are clear that voter registrations may not be rejected based solely on a non-match between the applicant's identifying numbers on their application and the comparison database numbers. So if the numbers don't match, you cannot reject it, which means the numbers don't matter. So the lawmakers' lawsuit says this is a problem, and they have sued. And so here's what that looked like. Let's zoom in on it. You can see this is filed in the Middle District of Pennsylvania. House Republicans, U.S. House of Representatives, all together combining as plaintiffs to sue Al Schmidt, the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Now, you'll see that he's a Republican, so-called. When I looked him up, we learned that he was appointed by Governor Josh Shapiro. This is him on the website over at pennsylvania.gov. And he came in and he said something like, this is Al Schmidt here. So he said something like, elections are the foundation of our democracy. And we at the Pennsylvania Department of State work hard to ensure every eligible voter can make their voice heard. All right, thank you there, Al. Appreciate that. So he was appointed by Shapiro, and he's been doing this stuff for a long time. So it's just the same pattern, right? I only bring this up because oftentimes they'll say this is bipartisan. Oh my gosh. Wait, Rob, a Republican agreed to these terms, blah, blah, blah. They did all this crap in 2020, and they changed all the rules, and we got the presumption of validity, which is an insane concept for checking signatures to make sure they're valid. You just actually don't check it. You just call it a presumption of validity. It's like brilliant, actually, in its deviousness. But here, he's been appointed by Josh Shapiro to do whatever Josh Shapiro wants to do, previously Republican, and he's a democracy guy. Okay, so honestly, he looks like he would be BFFs with Liz Cheney. No disrespect to him at all. But this is who is being sued. You can see it tells us that the congressmen are now suing, seeking re-election because they get re-elected every 2 years. So they're seeking re-election now, and they're saying this is going to be weird. This is going to actually impact our elections because we're running on the same ballot. So if you let in a bunch of votes that aren't legitimate because their numbers don't match, we can't verify they are who they say they are. That's going to impact our races. So they want declaratory and injunctive relief to ensure that the government, the state people, comply with the law about voter registration and verifying identity and eligibility when we count these out-of-state ballots. There's a law, the Federal Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, UOCAVA, that establishes voting privileges for the members of the military, their families, and other non-military citizens abroad. Now, this requires states to first determine the law if a voter registration applicant is qualified to have those privileges. Like, do you get those rights? Can you vote overseas and be counted? Federal law says, well, in order to make sure that they can do that, all states must accept and process, with respect to any election for federal office, any otherwise valid, if it's otherwise valid, voter registration and application before triggering the right for those voters. And so they got to check something. Now, to verify identity and eligibility, They establish minimum standards to do this. If they want to vote in a federal election and they want to use this right, they're overseas, they have to have, at the time of registration, a valid driver's license number. If they don't have a driver's license number, then it's the last 4 digits of their social security number. If they have neither of those, the states can give them a unique number to verify their identity and their eligibility. So somebody's got to check. Now, in addition to the minimum federal requirements, Pennsylvania law explicitly requires applicants, if you're going to use this out-of-state process, to satisfy the state requirements. And Pennsylvania law, so now we're not in federal law anymore, we're back down to Pennsylvania code. It says that an application may also be rejected if an omission prevents election officials from determining whether they're eligible. Now, in direct conflict with federal and state law, these defendants, Al Schmidt, this fella, you can call him Al, and what he is doing illegally is he issued a directive and guidance to county officials to exempt the UOCAVA applicants entirely from any verification requirements, which is very convenient for them. So that means nobody gets verified when they're voting from overseas. Okay, let's see where this goes. Now, the non-verification position has been confirmed in a sworn testimony in the General Assembly. So where did he say that? Like, you're not going to check them at all? What? When asked about how these applicants are verified in a 2022 hearing, Jonathan Marks, the guy who runs the election, Secretary of the Elections, he said in this hearing, he said, quote, well, that group of voters are specifically exempted from verification requirements. They said, well, how do you process the UOCAVA? He said, well, they're exempted from all of that. So they don't even have to provide any Pennsylvania ID, and they don't have to provide their social security numbers. And so there's no systematic verification at all. No systematic verification. Okay. They say that is all in an exhibit from the testimony, right? Public testimony. During a hearing, House committee meetings, public hearing. Now, the defendant, and they are now saying that's what we do. Do you check? No, we don't. Okay, why? Because they're exempt. So their non-verification position is also confirmed in their 2023 Pennsylvania Military and Overseas Voters Guidance. So then they write these documents, they ship them to everybody over there. They say, hey, this is the Department of State's position. And what they wrote in there is this, quote, the department's position is that covered voters are exempt from the election code's ID requirements from absentee voters. You see that? No ID. That's referencing their own manual. In Exhibit E. Now, the defendants cannot cite to any legal authority. They say it's our position that you're exempt. The election code, we just said you're exempt. Where does it say that? They cannot cite any legal authority, any statutory or otherwise, as a valid legal basis for their position. They just made it up. That covered voters are exempt from ID requirements because no exemption exists in state or federal law. Oh, well, we're just going to exempt you. So you can just register as a UOCAVA person and whatever, get a ballot, and nobody cares. Nobody even verifies that you're a citizen or checks at all. And they say that's our position. And they say, well, under the U.S. Constitution and the Supremacy Clause, preemption occurs when a state law or practice conflicts with federal law. And when it's impossible to comply with both the state law and the federal law, who wins? The feds. Yeah, I know, it's terrible. But because the defendants' statewide directives conflict with federal law, which is the rule change that, no, we're just not going to count, we're not going to check where they come from, and it's impossible to comply with both the directives and federal law, right? Federal law says check. The directives, the manual says don't check. The statewide directives are preempted by federal law. So those are now invalid. You have to not use those. Pennsylvania's practice, say these congressmen, is an illegally structured election process, which makes Pennsylvania's elections vulnerable to ineligible votes by individuals or entities who could purport to be UOCAVA eligible, register to vote without verification of identity or eligibility, but receive a ballot by email, and then vote a ballot without proving ID at any step in the process. See what that means? Vote by email and then vote a ballot. Get a ballot by email and then vote a ballot without ID at all. Bunch of chat GPT bots right now just sign it up at the fort. Sign it up, sign it up, sign it up, sign it up. Now the Commonwealth position, their position that we don't even check, allows UOCAVA applicants to register to vote and to cast ballots in federal elections that do not comply with the requirements of both federal and state law. Their disregard for the law creates an opportunity for inclusion of eligible ballots such that the ultimate tally of votes may not accurately reflect the legal status, which could affect the close congressional election, which is an injury to all of these 3, 4, 5 Republicans and Trump and everybody else on the ballot and America, because Pennsylvania might be the exact state that matters most, critical to victory. Foreign nations or domestic secretaries like Jenna Griswold and Shenna Bellows and Jocelyn Benson, in efforts to interfere with U.S. elections, could easily submit falsified applications for votes to unduly influence these U.S. elections. I'm sure. I'm worried about foreign nations for sure. But like, I don't know, 20% maybe. As far as I know, no foreign nation tried to remove Trump from the ballot and required us to go up to the Supreme Court to keep him on the ballot. Those were a couple secretaries from 2 states, supported by many others. And I don't think Iran was behind Thomas Matthew Crooks or Ryan Ruth, but they could have been. I don't know. But we can leave that for another conversation. Now, according to their absentee and their mail ballot report, over 25,000 UOCAVA ballots have already been transmitted to potentially unverified UOCAVA applicants. Do you see that? 25,000 of them already gone out. Now, the defendant's directives to county election officials to not attempt to verify or identify the eligibility of these applicants as required by federal law is an ongoing and continuing act, and it's an impending and continuing injury as the illegal election structure departs from the federal legal mandates. Total violation of both laws. They haven't cited anything to support their justification for it, other than it's a directive. Therefore, we are congressional candidates. We're entitled to declaratory and injunctive relief in the upcoming elections, and so tell them to change that direction. Now, let's be clear. They can change the directive, right, in the manual, but every single employee who works there is going to know what the old directive said, right? So they're just going to, I didn't know, and they just scream it through. I think it was Howard Zinn that said, you don't need a conspiracy when interests align. Something to that effect. So he'll just change the directives, and some of the manuals will have old directives in there, and then some people won't have the new training, and then they'll just, send a bunch in. And I don't know what the margin of error was in Pennsylvania in 2020. Let's take a look and see what the results were, what that margin of error was there. And it was 3.45 for Joe, 3.378 for Trump. So a margin bigger than 25,000, right, is what we're looking at there. So the 25,000, even if all of those went for Joe or for Kamala in this election, that wouldn't be, well, Joe Biden won that, right? So anyways, you can see 25,000, it's not a lot, but it's also a lot, because let's not forget, in Wisconsin, it was like 11,000 votes. I think Georgia was 11,000 votes. Arizona was about 11,000 votes. The big one was Michigan, which was, I think, 110, 190,000 votes. Pennsylvania, I think, was like 70,000 votes. I just closed it. But it's big. And if they start pumping out more of these ballots, it's considerable. These are what have already gone out. So let's carry on in the lawsuit. Now, the parties are these congresspeople. We see them. They're running for re-election. Defendant Al Schmidt, you can call him Al, is the political appointee of Governor Shapiro, who's not a Republican. So here are the allegations. They say that the plaintiffs, who are congressional candidates in 2024, are forced to participate in this illegally structured federal election process, saying that Pennsylvania doing this makes the elections vulnerable to ineligible voters whose identities could be submitted without verification. They could receive a ballot by email and vote without providing ID at all. Their practice allows them to register and to cast ballots that don't comply with both federal and state law. And potentially invalid ballots could be accepted, and in turn, the invalid votes could change the result of a close congressional election. Now, the defendant's directives, the state's directives, to the election officials do not even attempt to verify the identity or the eligibility as is required under the law. And so it's a continuing injury. And so what we need here, what this is actually, is a misinterpretation of the law. This congressman is a plaintiff. He resides in this district. This guy lives in this district. This guy lives in this district. And the same with these other candidates. Now, here's the problem with it all. The Constitution's Elections Clause authorizes states to regulate the time, place, and manner of federal elections. Now, the Elections Clause, ratified in 1790 as part of the original Constitution, says the following: the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law, make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing the senators. And so they say, well, here's how we interpret that. First, the Elections Clause divides the legal responsibility for regulating federal elections. You can see primary responsibility lies with states, but Congress can enact to override them. Now, second, the plaintiffs also believes that the Elections Clause lodges the power to regulate the elections in the respective legislative branches of the states and the federal government. And so Congress, pursuant to the Elections Clause, enacted in the UOCAVA in 1986 regulating absentee ballots for overseas and military citizens is in effect. And that sets the rules. And the act applies to everybody. And it was signed into law by Reagan. What's up, Ronald? The plaintiffs believe that this law facilitates military and overseas voters distinct from other absentee voting by providing privileges to eligible voters, right? You get some benefits, you get a ballot by email and other things. Now, we also understand that the federal postcard application is the form used by members of the military and their families to register to vote and to request an absentee ballot, including in Pennsylvania. These may be returned by mail, email, or fax. Under these laws, the form can also be used by U.S. citizens who reside outside of the United States, but who are not members of the military. Now, this form is both a voter registration form and an absentee ballot application, kind of combined in a single document, is what it says. And so this law is accurately quoted as follows, and it requires states to do this: to accept and process with respect to any election for federal office any otherwise valid voter registration. So somebody's got to be checking that. They understand that the privileges of this apply to an otherwise eligible individual, and it includes fields that they must provide a driver's license or a social security number. Now, the plaintiff is understanding is that federal law anticipates that the state will have additional requirements beyond that. And so there's also a form for additional information. Now, non-military UOCAVA eligible voters include study abroad students, might also qualify, individuals who work outside of the U.S. or U.S. citizens who reside abroad, right? Many other people that we want to participate. Now, members of the military and their family members who vote as military under UOCAVA must have valid IDs that could be matched to data in government databases to verify identity and eligibility. So members of the military are known. The plaintiff understanding here, so the Congress people suing, is that unlike some states that allows overseas votes from those who have never lived in the state, Pennsylvania is not a never resided state. Okay, you don't just get to claim you live there, meaning that only those U.S. citizens who lived in Pennsylvania before moving abroad would be eligible to vote in any election in Pennsylvania. Which makes sense. You can just like tag a state and be like, I'm voting there, even though you've never lived there, like never had residency there. What? All right. Now, according to the EAC's report, election administration and this survey, in Pennsylvania's last presidential election, the state received approximately 2,700 ballots through UOCAVA, with 20,000 of those ballots coming from non-military applicants, right? So actually, most of them were not military. Only 7,000 were. Now, Congress, pursuant to this elections clause, enacted this rule, which included requirements that states verify registration information. In 2002, Congress also, pursuant to this, enacted HAVA, which is the Help America Vote Act, and that enables people to vote. The congressional record says that Kit Bond, a senator, talked about why we need this and talked about the ID process. He said, well, Congress has agreed that while mail-in cards have made registration more accessible, the mail-in policy has also created increased opportunities for fraud. To address this, we created an ID requirement for first-time voters who register by mail, right? That's why we passed this law. The security of the registration and the voting process is of paramount concern to Congress, they said. And the ID provision and the fraud provisions are necessary to guarantee the integrity of our elections. Every false registration and every fraudulent ballot cast harms the system by canceling the votes of legitimate voters, undermining all of our confidence. And so our understanding is that HAVA establishes the minimum requirements. You must have these things. If an individual has been issued a driver's license, they must provide the driver's license. If they do not have a driver's license, then it's the last four of their social. If they don't have a social, then that individual may not vote. The state may assign a unique number, but that individual may not vote in a federal election unless they provide some other document to establish identity and eligibility. Wow. So pretty strict, right? Do you have a driver's license? Because if you do, then the state's checked you and gave you a driver's license. You don't? You have a social security number? Did the feds check you? You don't? Okay. We'll assign you a number, but you're not voting unless you're Pennsylvania. Then they just say, sure, whatever you want. How many ballots do you want? Data, just sign up under a different name. We'll send you some other ones too, because we don't care. Data from the Social Security Administration shows that a very small percentage of U.S. adults do not have a social security number or a driver's license number. And so our understanding, they say, the Congress people, is that the small number of those individuals eligible to vote who have not been issued driver's license or state ID or social security numbers can still register to vote and be assigned a unique voter ID number by the state when they prove their identity by alternate means. And so these other examples are perfectly acceptable. Passports, military IDs, utility bills, bank bill statements, many things. Just name and address. Like there's a bunch of stuff that they accept. And as detailed, they also provide for military and military families, and they get privileges to vote absentee. Now, before voting, eligible citizens intending to vote may register to vote and simultaneously request an absentee ballot using the federal postcard application. To determine if they're eligible, the states must first determine if they're otherwise valid. Pennsylvania law established ID and eligibility requirements, meeting the minimum standards. Congress passed this to speed things up, and there are additional requirements if you register by mail. Now, our understanding is that this is for first-time voters, and there are requirements under the law. The individual, if you come and vote in person, you got to present valid ID or show the name and the address of the voter. And if you don't comply, you get a provisional ballot. Now, this was also enacted in 1986 before email was even available. And so Congress enumerated an exception for those who registered by mail or who would be necessarily voting absentee. Eligible voters are not required to submit a photocopy of their ID when they return the ballot by mail. So there is an exception there. It shall not apply so they don't have to send ID, if they can vote absentee under the UOCAVA. Now, HAVA exempts UOCAVA from having to provide their ID, but it does not exempt from them ever providing ID prior to voting. And so Pennsylvania law says that they need to have ID. And we're fast forwarding a little bit. Okay, Pennsylvania law is quoted as the following. And our understanding is that this state law cannot supersede federal law. Minimum state requirements tell us what the status is. They're described here. 18 years of age, a citizen, a resident for at least 1 month, not confined to prison or convicted of a felony. And so we understand that the majority of these UOCAVA applicants, they provide a driver's license number or a social security number, but the defendant, the state, directs the counties not to even attempt to verify the information that they provide. Why? Al Schmidt is Pennsylvania's chief election official. HAVA also charges Schmidt, as well as his predecessors, with the responsibility of establishing a system so that we can actually check those that come in. The chief election official is responsible for this. These are what the rules say. Requires them to enter into agreements with all of the other agencies so that they can verify their IDs. Now, in violation of this, Pennsylvania's chief, Schmidt, or Marks, or both, they didn't do any of this. They were required under the statutes to do it. They didn't. They said as follows: those entitled to vote by absentee ballot under UOCAVA, they said this, are not required to provide proof of ID. That's interesting because they just cited right there and right here and right here all of the different rules and requirements pursuant to the statutes, right? So he's just not doing his job. We're just not going to check. They just don't do the work. Now, although defendants do have a process for required verification, defendants, the state secretary, instructs counties not to even attempt to verify them, even though it's required under the law. And in fact, in 2022, the secretary of the Commonwealth, the deputy secretary at the time, confirmed it as well. Said the current practice in Pennsylvania is to exempt the UOCAVA voters entirely from verification requirements. When asked, how do counties verify information for UOCAVA applicants during a hearing in the General Assembly, the Deputy Secretary for Elections, Jonathan Marks, he testified in a House committee public hearing. He said, well, that group of voters are specifically exempted from HAVA verification requirements. They do not have to provide any Pennsylvania ID or the last four of their social security number. There is no systematic verification, period. Not even looking. So the secretary and the deputy, both through the Department of State's guidance, includes the department's position that the UOCAVA applicants are exempt from ID, right? Look at this. It's right here in the manual. Here's their Pennsylvania military and overseas voter guidance. That's a good clip right there, screenshot. What are the voter ID requirements for covered voters? From Pennsylvania Department of State. The department's position is that covered voters are exempt from the election code's ID requirements from absentee voters. Well, there we go. So every time somebody says, well, what's your evidence of voter fraud? Or what's your evidence of the rule changes or something? It's not possible. It's right there. They're not even checking ID. So do you think that they're going to find voter fraud if they're not even checking ID? No. That's the point. It's in their own manual, right? And these are the directives that change. This is not a statute, so nobody can really, you have to catch this stuff. They change the rules You're exempt. It's our right to do that. And tell the Republicans, sue. Essentially, through directives and guidance to county election officials, they exempt the applicants entirely from verification of ID and eligibility, even though it's required under law. They have illegally adopted a position that the voter registration requirements for verification of ID and eligibility can be waived by just expanding HAVA's narrow exceptions to the additional mail ballot return ID requirements. If their directive and guidance are based on their position or interpretation of the statutes, then those statutes, if they're trying to say it's based on this, those conflict with federal law. And despite the almost obvious contradiction between the federal law mandates, that say get ID and their issued directives and guidance, 2 Pennsylvania administrative complaints have been rejected by the Office of the General Counsel. And they cite them there for further reading. Now, in the appeal, the defendants in this case, they've also filed a response reiterating their position, right? They're fighting this, saying, nope, they're exempt. But before the Department of Defense and the Department of Justice and the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, they've all confirmed, all the feds, these applicants are not exempt from voter registration. And the Federal Voting Assistance Program, which is charged with overseeing all of this, provides an electronic version of the FPCA. The website includes instructions to actually give personal ID. If federal law created an exemption from voter registration, then they wouldn't put those in the form. Now, the directive to county election officials is to not attempt to verify the info and to not attempt to match the information in the database. Even if they provided a number, do not match it. Do not look at it. The secretary or deputy secretary or both instructs counties to send a UOCAVA applicant a ballot without verifying their ID or their eligibility at all. In 2014, a brief that was filed by the DOJ on behalf of the elections assistants, they quoted the following from Arizona. And they will fast forward through that. They say this comment by the DOJ on behalf of the EAC shows there is no federal exemption for UOCAVA because they're citing an Arizona case. In fact, the Department of Defense and the Department of Justice and the EAC have confirmed that a state can reject FPCAs that are not accompanied with proof if the state law requires it. And there is no exemption to ID or eligibility for this. And the Supremacy Clause prohibits them from overriding direct federal law. Other states are able to comply with these rules, and other states do this. And our understanding, say these congressmen, is that Pennsylvania's procedures in this regard contradicts other states' procedures for complying with federal law. Other states can do it. But this is Pennsylvania. It's an important one for them to rig. So publicly available documents accessible on the internet include procedures, and in addition to the identification that's required, Ohio instructs them to complete their ballots, fill out ID, and they must provide their forms. In Ohio, they can do it. Georgia, wow. Even Georgia's got it figured out. I'm sure Fannie had no role in it. Has a procedure properly to verify the identity of the voters. They've got it. They're training up there. Alaska does the same thing. What's up? Minnesota. They've got it too. Even Minnesota states on a PowerPoint, if the ID, look, and where does this, what I just say, Minnesota? If the identification numbers do not match, board members must make an effort to satisfy themselves that the ballot was returned by the same individual to whom the ballot was sent. The voter, here's some more, accept, reject. Verification. The voter is provided the same ID number as on the application. Voters can provide their passport, driver's license, ID number. If they do not match, you got to look into it. Did the voter is not known to have died? Some other things. Saying even they're referencing it. Says that. If the county delegates a be voting to municipalities forwarded to them. Okay. In 2006, Federal District Court of Washington also issued an injunction similarly, And so Pennsylvania and what they're doing here violates UOCAVA, does not meet the minimum standard. And the Supremacy Clause bars Pennsylvania from making exceptions to federal law. The only exemption is if you provide a photocopy of your ID. Otherwise, you're not exempted. And notably, Pennsylvania law does not allow citizens who have never resided in the state to register and vote in the state. So how would they even know? And so the understanding here is that eligible citizens who have previously resided in Pennsylvania and who could apply for UOCAVA would be required to provide license, photo ID, or other things. In fact, ID is required to board an airplane, to cross a border or to travel abroad, but pretty complicated for elections for our cheating politicians. Now, the plaintiff's understanding is that despite the fact that the most applicants who submit their forms do provide driver's license, the state has still instructed and continue to instruct the counties not to attempt to verify the info. Right? And that's what's so sneaky about it. It's not saying like verify it and then if it's questionable, count it or something. Like if it's off by a little, it's just like, don't even check. Don't even look. Like don't ask, don't tell. To be eligible, because if you look, then you might see a bunch of weird stuff. You might see a pattern or identify a problem. But if you don't look, not just check, then anything can go. So to be eligible, applicants must satisfy the voter eligibility requirement. UOCAVA requires states to first determine if they're eligible, but they instruct the counties not to verify the information. Nonetheless, the Department of State's guidance says that it is the department's position, even though the law says clearly otherwise, that they are exempt. And here, the DOJ just came out. They indicted Iranians. And so the Iranians, for example, could easily create and submit falsified forms in Pennsylvania's federal elections, right? The Iranians, that's a big one. It's like the Iranians, or it could be the Shenabellos or the Jenna Griswolds from Colorado. I'm concerned about the Iranians, sure, but really the Jennanians is the one I'm concerned about. Now, count one, UOCAVA, they say you're violating federal law, so stop doing that. We want you to stop. And let's see if there's other counts here. Here's what they want. A declaratory judgment and a statement from the court that the directives and the guidance that have come from the state are preempted by federal law. So stop telling them to just accept the numbers and all the ballots. Actually check. Issue an order granting injunctive relief, stopping Schmidt, Al, and others to facilitate those directives, right? So claw those back, but it's going to be the same people, the same employees who are executing the plan. And issue an order for an injunction instructing them to provide directions to follow the legally mandated procedures, follow the federal law, and actually verify the identity and the eligibility of the ballots. And issue an order for an injunction requiring county officials to segregate the ballots that do not have ID, put them in a separate bucket until we can verify the identity and the eligibility of the voters. Awesome filing from Karen DeSalvo, Eric G. Gardal, digging into this very sneaky change. And we've seen a lot of this. And I think a lot of this was unnoticed in 2020. But shout out to these congresspeople for identifying it. And it's just marginal changes around the edges. We're just going to presume that the ID has been checked and you're exempted. We're going to waive the checking of the signatures like we saw in Michigan. And the fight goes on. So we'll be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Shout out to these congresspeople for taking the fight in there in Pennsylvania. We'll see what the court says. Of course, the government's going to file their response saying, oh, no, we check everything. Everything's great. And we'll see what the courts do. Pennsylvania is a big state, so we'll keep our eye on it. All right. And so let's change gears, my friends. and jump over to this one because this is a nice headline, as you can see. Kind of a disgusting one, but it's a big one. Let's put ourselves up here for this one. 1.7 million potential national security threats. That's according to the Judiciary Committee and Chairman Jim Jordan. They've released this 11-pager telling us that the border is a disaster. They write, since January of 2021, millions of illegal aliens have taken advantage of Joe Biden and border czar, oh my gosh, MSNBC must be going through the roofs because they put it in quotes even, of Kamala and her open border policies. In just over 3.5 years, the administration has welcomed into the country, look at these numbers, 7.6 million illegal aliens, 1.9 million known illegal alien gotaways. Among those largely unvetted aliens, 382 illegal aliens on the government's terrorist watch list, 382 who have been encountered by Border Patrol along the southwest border since 21. Another 100 watch-listed aliens encountered so far in 24. Now, they continue telling us that the terrorist threat to the United States has skyrocketed due to Kamala's open border. As just one example, quote, of the more than 250 illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list who were encountered by Border Patrol at the southwest border between 21 and 23, Biden has released into the American communities at least 99. 250 identified and encountered, 99 roam free. And 34 others are in Homeland's custody but not removed. Now, meanwhile, Harris has sought to conceal the real consequences of her policies. In September 24, former Border Patrol official told Congress that he was ordered not to release any information on the increase of special interest aliens from other countries who continue to be a threat to national security or to counterintelligence. They said, do not mention any of the arrests because, in his words, Harris was trying to convince the public that there was no threat at the border. Now, in a similar effort to hide the dangerous consequences, for months, Harris delayed briefings about this guy, Mohammed Karwin, an illegal alien from Afghanistan who's on the terrorist watch list. The Biden-Harris administration released Karwin into the United States only to later discover that he was on a terrorist watch list. Oops. Now, 5 months after the committee's request for a briefing, DHS finally provided a briefing on his case. In this briefing, however, they refused to answer many of our questions, including about the background information that led him to being on the terrorist watch list and the arrest ultimately by Homeland. Now, despite the attempt to cover up this nightmare, we have revealed significant policy failures through our investigation that they're telling us now about. They write, under Biden and Harris, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has encountered more than 1.7 million special interest aliens, meaning aliens from 26 countries that Homeland has determined pose the greatest national security and counterintelligence threats to the United States. The special interest countries include Afghanistan, Cuba, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Nigeria, Syria, and Turkey. They recently added 12 nations to the list: China, North Korea, Kyrgyzstan, Mauritania, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Venezuela. 11 countries were removed. Now, Homeland admitted to the committee that being a national of a special interest country does not affect their admissibility into the United States. It doesn't matter. In addition to releasing these illegal aliens, who they knew were on a terrorist watch list at the time of their release, the administration also has released illegal aliens into the country that it only later confirmed had terrorist ties. Talking about Mohammed Karwin, officials initially created a terrorist watch list record for him in 2018, updating it in 2019. Because of a name discrepancy, so his name changed from Mohammed Karwin to Mohammed Musa Karwin. Complicated. Well, added a middle name in there, threw off the entire national security agency. Oh, who? We lost him. Where'd he go? Because of the discrepancy, the presence of a middle name, and the transposed WNR in the surname. Oh, yeah, it's Karin, not Carwin. See that? Wow. Guy evaded the NSA. And a lack of biographic or biometric information in the record. Border Patrol agents are like, you're good. Nope, no worries. Into the U.S. This guy's like, you're kidding me. I'm going free without alerting ICE about possible terrorism ties. Great job, government. In February 2024, Carwin's, because somebody fat fingered in his last name, derp, Carwin's terrorist watch list record was updated to include his biometric and biographic data, allowing officials to positively identify him as being on the terrorist watch list. The Terrorist Screening Center then shared derogatory information with ICE fugitive operations, and they got him. Nonetheless, even after he was apprehended, an immigration judge ordered Carwin released on bond, and a month later, it took Homeland nearly 2 more weeks to rearrest the guy. That's just outstanding. The interim staff reports, this guy's like, he's like making bombs. Like, I'm out again. They're like, you're back. Yeah, they let me out. Oh, perfect. Okay, here's another bomb. Here's some more explosives. Here, bring it to that vest. Yeah, that's great. They come and get him again. Like, I'm going back to jail. Hey, Carwin, you're gone again. Or should we call you Carwin? Karin. You know, they're making fun of him now. Anyways, the interim staff report highlights how potential national security and counterintelligence threats from around the world have exploited their open border policies. There can be no doubt that the surge of illegals is weakening our national security. And we're not happy about it. And that's the executive summary. So let's see what else they've got. More than 1.7 million national interest people have come in. Look at this chart. Look at these two. Just wreck. And this one, they should sort of start, pushing him off of the side here. And it should be more Kamala since she cooed him out of there. But there's that analysis. Mohammed Carwin, or if you're evading the CIA, Karin, right? Just transpose those letters. Couldn't find the guy. And then they found him. He was released a couple times, twice into the United States. After finally being arrested, he was detained only for a month. Then the officials failed to inform the immigration people. They didn't tell the judge, so he put him on a $12,000 bond. Just don't blow anything up, okay? Yes, Your Honor, I promise. After Carwin's second release, then ICE field office director, so they go to the top guy, briefed him on it. Then he goes, you better go friggin' pick that guy up like now. Nonetheless, it then took him 2 weeks to go rearrest him. Despite negative top secret security provided background on him that was sufficient to cause the arrest within a day just weeks earlier, right? Homeland Security finally re-got the guy. The same day a media report it revealed that he was free somewhere in the country running around, setting up little terrorist bomber cells. Incredible. And then 16 months after he entered the U.S., an immigration judge granted him voluntary departure, which just he can go. As a result, he may be able to return to the U.S. much sooner as well. So they gave him no removal order that would have otherwise carried immigration consequences. What a trip that paragraph is. Voluntary departure means he can come back sooner because he wasn't ordered removed. A grant of voluntary departure also requires a finding that he merits a favorable exercise of discretion because he doesn't have any criminal history. That guy. So, okay. In January, the Justice Department framed this requirement as demonstrating he's a good person. Now, despite Carwin's placement on a terrorist watch list, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I guess a lot of people, are on the terrorist watch list. I guess we might all be on the terrorist watch list if Liz Cheney's in charge or Kamala Harris is in charge. I don't know. What does that mean? Anyways, security risk that justified his arrest. Homeland agreed to his voluntary departure, apparently conceding that he didn't need favorable discretion. Homeland has not confirmed if he does have national security issues. And he's going to return to Afghanistan. He's currently in ICE custody, but he's going to go back to Afghanistan. So, okay, probably, maybe they'll give him first class tickets. And he wants to be able to lay down. So get him a nice aircraft, okay? Conclusion. When Border Patrol encountered more than 1.7 million special interest illegals, no one cared. Congress must take this issue seriously, and they're not. So, all right. That's the report over from Congress. 1.7 million potential national security threats. And obviously, this is just the law of big numbers. You just say, okay, 1% of those people are like nuts, and 1% of those people will actually act out on their being nuts. That's still a lot of people. And if they're terrorist bombers who are running around, it's not good for anyone. All right, so that's the border update. And now, my friends, let's talk about what's happening on X. Elon Musk is calling out Pete Buttigieg, who must have taken some time off paternity leave to hop on X and respond to Elon, who is criticizing FEMA and our federal government's uselessness in the response to Hurricane Helene. And it's not just that. A lot of people are now saying they're actually actively interfering with the recovery efforts from more competently situated folks with more organization and more capability to support. So Elon posted this on X, and there's a back and forth between Elon and Booty that we'll get into. But it says, okay, Elon writes, just received this note from a SpaceX engineer helping on the ground in North Carolina. He tags FEMA and says, look, FEMA is not merely failing to adequately help people in trouble, but is actively blocking citizens who try to help. Here's a quote. Hey, Elon, update here on the site of Asheville, North Carolina, from one of Elon's team members. We've powered up 2 large operating bases for choppers to deliver goods into hands. We've deployed 300 plus Starlinks, and outpour is it has saved many lives. The big issue is FEMA is actively blocking shipments and seizing goods and services locally and locking them away to state they are their own. It's very real and scary how much they have taken control to stop people helping. We are blocked now on the shipments of new Starlinks coming in until we get an escort from the fire department, but that may not be enough. And so you can decide whether you believe that or not. I absolutely do. I think that this report from somebody who's working from Elon direct to X to our eyeballs is much more credible than anything we'd ever hear from our federal government on anything. But it doesn't stop there. Elon's got some other text messages to support this. He says, I just received this text 20 minutes ago. The level of belligerent government incompetence is staggering. Elon, hey Elon, update here on the site of Asheville. We've powered up different. He says, what the F? FEMA is both incompetent and stopping people from helping. How can I help? Says Elon. Response, it's true. They are now about to shut down the airspace to, quote, regulate the private choppers we are riding in to deliver Starlink and supplies. We are pushing back with the Trump team as well to help us, but it's not looking good. We need help to get the word out about FEMA. We spoke with Ivanka and handed out Starlinks with her yesterday, but FEMA then showed up and started blocking us. The largest concern for us here is the FAA throttling our flights from our choppers where they are requiring to and from information and a mission now to deliver a discrete code and all this. Doing this takes a long time and is very cumbersome to the ops. This is the largest concern and most help we could use, but I appreciate you, Elon. Posted that. And then Booty came out of the woodwork and he responded. Pete! He said, no one is shutting down the airspace, Elon. And the FAA doesn't block legitimate rescue and recovery flights. If you're encountering a problem, give me a call. So Elon said, okay, happy to do that. He says, well, there are hundreds of reports of FEMA and the FAA blocking flights. Like this literally just happened. I have the text right here. So, hey, Pete Booty, I will follow you. Please DM me the number to call. Elon says, still waiting, Booty. The helicopter is trying to land and deliver critical supplies. So can you please tell me what number to call? Pete's like, oh, crap. All right. What number? Give him a phone number. What do we call him? He's like, oh, crap. Brian jumps out, and you know how he sounds. Are they trying to land in an unsafe location? Elon says, no, they're trying to land right there. We tried to land here, and the law enforcement here waved us off. What the F, says Elon? What the F? And that's right there in the middle of the parking lot. Can we land there? No. Purple circle is the officer that sits there to wave us off. We had food, we had water, we had 2 Starlinks in hand. They had a friggin' helicopter that was going to land him there. This group we are with is badass, man. They said today, well, we will force them to take supplies and just, right? Got a bunch of people ready to go help. And our government that's like, we'll give you $750 if you're nice to us. So that's what Elon said. Now, apparently they did have a phone call. And so this is new. You can see they are reporting here from Elon. Thanks for the call, Pete. Hopefully we can resolve this soon. And he also responded, oh, no, there's no one saying there's no difficulty landing, right? Are you saying that this man and hundreds of others are lying? Nick Sortor, who's been grinding over there. Okay, so shout out to Nick Sortor. I follow him and I've been watching what he's been doing awesome work, just grinding, trying to help as many people as possible. He said, yeah, this should shock absolutely nobody, okay? FEMA is actively hindering relief efforts, as our government usually is useless. Moreover, now they're claiming the Starlinks that I've personally delivered as the ones they've delivered. And remember how much crap and guff they've given Elon? Like the FCC is at his throat every step of the turn. Everywhere he goes, he's got new, discrimination, employment claims. It's ridiculous. And we were talking about this morning on our Members Only stream. That what if we gave Elon the budget of FEMA, which I looked up, it's about $30 billion. Do you think that Elon could have a little better response team for a fraction of that cost? He'd be landing friggin' rockets, setting up new houses, and it'd be wild. All the robots running around here for $30 billion. Are you kidding? But FEMA, is just interfering with the actual people who are doing the work. And instead, they're now bickering over money because they paid it all to illegals, as we'll talk about. So Elon and Booty had a conversation about this, and hopefully they get it sorted out. But the question remains, why is FEMA so incompetent? We've talked about Rahm Emanuel and how the Democrats take advantage of every single crisis, including COVID, to rig elections. Now we've got Hurricane Helene, and there's been some other charts and some other analysis saying that, a lot of North Carolina is pretty Republican. And the counties, the areas that were most affected by this sort of rural washout, right, where there's all these roads destroyed, people living in small towns, all obliterated, the big damage is going to be to the smaller towns, smaller cities, smaller counties where the supply chains are all interrupted, whatever, right? The big cities are still going to have a lot of their people hunkered down in the cities. It's concrete, they got drainage and water and stuff. And so those cities tend to be bluer. The rural cities tend to be redder. And so if you rush support to the red cities, well, maybe you'll help them turn out. As it stands right now, there's currently a suppressive effect across many rural areas throughout the Southeast. And the cities, which are the Democrat turnout machines, are less impacted, right? So there'll be more of them turning out, Democrats, and less Republicans turning out just by virtue of the geographics and the devastation of the hurricane. And there was some analysis that has been out there. I think I saw the article on Breitbart or Zero Hedge or maybe the Gateway Pundit, one of them, but showing that the counties that are being slow rolled support seem to be red counties. Why might that be? And on this channel earlier, we released another segment, I think it was last week, where we went through the North Carolina law and explained how if you're impacted by a national disaster or however was whatever terminology they used, it allowed you to not have to use voter ID in order to go vote. All you needed to do was just fill out an affidavit and that counted. So for the cheating hack Democrats, you never let a crisis go to waste. And you think about this in terms of turnout. In fact, the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show got this clip. Axelrod, former Obama guy, mega Democrat player, is out talking about it in those terms, saying his people, the Democrats, they're still going to turn out. Republicans might be a little bit less able.
Here's my question about North Carolina. You had these killer storms, which, by the way, was a third big story this week.
Yes,
these
another
storms. And there's a lot of displacement in western North Carolina. Now, Asheville is a blue dot in that area, but there are a lot of Republican voters
Asheville's
there.
Key.
But those voters in Asheville are, they're, the kind of voters who will figure out a way to vote. They're upscale kind of liberal voters, and they're probably going to figure out a way to vote. I'm not sure a bunch of these folks who've had their homes and lives destroyed elsewhere in western North Carolina in the mountains there are going to be as easy to wrangle for the Trump campaign. Here's my
see how that goes, right? Exactly right. So it was a suppressive effect that they'll take full advantage of. As we know, the Democratic Party is now the party of rich industry, rich liberals, big education, big agriculture, big pharma, big war, big business, big finance, everything, right? So that they've got a lot of money. And so they probably got second homes. They'll just pick up and go somewhere else. But the everyday American, the working class, Trump supporter, people like you and I who do not have multiple houses to go retire to when there's hurricanes that come through and blast our livelihood into oblivion, that is to their benefit. And they're going to take full advantage of that. So slow rolling resources out might make some tactical sense if you want to keep those people in disarray and have them suppressed when it's time to vote. Now, they're coming out now at FEMA and saying that we're just spreading misinformation, okay? They're doing a great job. Stop whining about it. They're at least giving people $750, and so that's good enough. And if you want any more money, well, maybe you should get invaded by Russia or something, okay?
This is Kiera in the National Response Coordination Center. There's a rumor out there that FEMA is only providing survivors with $750. This is not true. One type of assistance, serious needs assistance, does provide survivors with $750 for essentials like baby formula, food, water, medication, and other essential supplies. But there are other forms that you may qualify for after you apply for disaster assistance. You can receive things like temporary housing or home repair costs. For more information, click the link.
Okay, so maybe they'll be more useful in the coming days, but everything that we're seeing from Elon and other reports on X and people that we follow and trust is that they're doing a terrible job, and they're openly, actively talking about the political ramifications of it. And so one doesn't need to speculate too hard. President Trump is talking about this as well, saying that they've done a terrible job and it would be nice to have some competent government. They told us the adults are going to be back in charge and everything's going to be amazing. It will be when Trump's back, baby.
In North Carolina and in Georgia and in some others too, they have no communication whatsoever. All of the poles are down. All of the wires are down. They're all lying in the mud, right? And I said, well, what can I do? They said, we need help. And I called Elon, and I'm telling you, it was amazing. The call wasn't even over. And Starlink units were being delivered to North Carolina and now to Georgia. Georgia called me a little bit later, and I said, we'll get them. And they were very happy. The governor of Georgia is actually working very hard. Everybody was so happy. Elon delivered so quickly. I'm telling you, the phone wasn't, I was getting calls, thank you very much. The call's not even over yet. And I said, that's great, Elon, thank you. In North Carolina.
So Elon springs into action. And Trump was also talking about FEMA, asking where all the money went. Here is Trump out on the tarmac.
FEMA has not done the job, meaning the
Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate that short statement about how terrible everything is. Now, while our citizens are having a hard time, this one senator has something that he wants you to really think about, because things are tough in North Carolina, but it's a big world out there, you know?
You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for that.
You know, I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. And Biden says, be proportional. What is the proportional response to people who want to kill you and your family?
Segue.
They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends.
Okay, so nice segue. So, okay, North Carolina, stop it, okay? It's only a hurricane that wants to kill you, okay? It's not terrorists. So think about them, which is just par for the course, man. It's going to be so nice when he is not in our government anymore. Matt Gaetz is out trying to respond to this missing money, or money that was reapportioned, because it's not really missing. We know where it is. It's in the pockets of illegal aliens and the grifters who enable the entire industry. But Matt Gaetz came out with a letter and sent a letter to Alejandro Mayorkas from Homeland. And so let's see what Gaetz said. From Matt Gaetz, 1st District out of Florida, sent over to the Honorable Alejandro Mayorkas. He says, all right, dear Alejandro, listen. Yesterday, you stated that FEMA, which is part of your department, quote, does not have enough funds to make it through the hurricane season. What? Is it in Ukraine? Is that why? This news comes after FEMA has spent hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on migrants due to Kamala Harris' open border, and instead of prioritizing funding for Americans impacted by these disasters. Now, my office, Alejandro, has been in contact with whistleblowers in numerous emergency management functions at the federal, state, and local levels. And they all point to the same critical mismanagement issues. FEMA has wasted taxpayer dollars, misappropriated funds, and left other federal, state, and local responders without deployment orders on the ground. As reported and further confirmed by my office, hundreds, if not thousands, of service members were deployed by the Department of Defense to North Carolina to have sat idle, waiting for FEMA. We have confirmed FEMA employees deployed on the clock, awaiting orders in hotels, just sitting around twiddling their thumbs. FEMA pre-disaster aid was withheld, exacerbating the emergency. It is also public that NGOs have published airline tickets for migrants through the use of these FEMA funds. Now, the aftermath of Hurricane Helene is a major disaster, Alejandro, and your waste and your unpreparedness are leaving Americans in distress, unable to access food, water, or medicine, and expecting help with none coming. And so why don't you provide some answers to me? By October 11th, 1, what policies and regulations from Homeland and FEMA prevent emergency funds from being wasted on illegals? And what conditions are placed on grantees of the agency? Answer, none. I'll answer that right now. None. They can spend whatever they want. It's illegals. It's their prerogative. They're not going to regulate themselves. Of FEMA's total budget, so he's Congress now. So he's asking questions about the power of the purse. What portion of funds can be guaranteed to have been spent solely on American citizens, and what portions of the fund was or have been spent on non-citizens? Oh, that's going to be horrible to learn that number. It's like, wait, you get the bill. Wait, what? Huh? That's what? Are you sure? In fiscal year 2024, what portion of funds in the disaster relief fund have been spent on non-disaster relief, like giving services to illegal aliens and providing routine training to FEMA employees? That came out of general appropriations. Let us know. Sincerely, your friend, Matt Gaetz from Florida, Congressman. And, Congress has the power of the purse. So hopefully they actually do something about this other than just granting the feds more and more money. And so let's take a look at what Cory Mills is doing. Cory Mills has been there on the scene helping out. Here's a midday update. He's there day 5. He posted this 6 hours ago. He says, we have 67 Polaris generators that we're going to be distributing across West North Carolina to help get power back to hard-hit areas, to make contact with families, to power the Starlink systems, to support aid stations, and to get communities help. We are inbound, and you are not forgotten, North Carolina. Thank you to all our partners, especially Mercury One Charity. And so this dude is ex-military, I believe, and he was also on Fox News. Let's listen to this exchange of him explaining the situation.
Republican out of Florida, and sir, good morning to you. I was looking at your resume here. You've helped out in Haiti, Israel, Afghanistan, and now you're on your 3rd hurricane. Where are you today? What are you going to be doing knowing that the government, in your words, is too big and too slow to help?
Well, they are too big and too slow, and thanks for going ahead and covering this. Again, you know, we're so quick to forget things like the incidents in Maui or hurricanes here in Florida, or even the recent hurricane with Hurricane Helene that's impacted North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia so much. But we'll focus and prioritize illegal criminal migrants as well as for borders 9,000 miles away. Again, I think America needs to get its priorities straight. But really right now what we're trying to do is to continue to bring supplies. So as of yesterday on day 3, we've distributed about 13,000 pounds of various supplies, everything from Starlink systems to different locations that are completely remote and cut off and isolated so that we can get our missing persons numbers down. Remember, a lot of people are saying, well, I haven't heard from my family member since the last text I received, which is that it's getting bad. And so that obviously allows us to be able to cut down the number of welfare checks that we're doing, as well as for search and rescue missions. We're distributing generators today, food supplies, and mostly medications. Again, people are running short on insulin, on oxygen bottles, on key essentials. And so we've got a cost of $212 that every single day we're loading with different materials, thanks to great organizations and charities like Mercury One, thanks to organizations like Universal Air, who utilize the helicopters to be able to do remote pickup and rotary wing. But we're also doing evacuations. You know, just the other day, there's an 83-year-old man, it was his birthday actually, who was suffering from signs of hypertension or cardiac arrest. And this is a guy who's been having cancer treatments, and he had to be immediately medevaced from Bailey, North Carolina, where we picked him up, all the way over to Johnson City. So we're hitting about 3-4 cities a day. Yesterday we hit Pensacola, and talking to the fire chief there was very, very disheartening. He said they had 4 fatalities recently, 2 of which they knew that floated down the river they couldn't get to. And he said that they'll be recovering bodies, unfortunately, throughout the end of the year. So this is a horrific incident. There's towns that are absolutely devastated. And my question is, again, where's the federal government? Where's the rest of our elected officials who needs to be here to be able to respond when Americans are in trouble?
Congress.
Worried about other things. And so shout out to Cory Mills and everybody who's there responding to this. Tons of people diving in, heroes, all of them. And so we'll keep sending our love and energy that way. But my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. We covered 3 good segments today. If you're just joining us, I hope your Friday's amazing. We talked about this new lawsuit brought by 3 Pennsylvania congressmen against their Secretary of State, Al, and the directives that they have implemented to try to sneak in a bunch of unverified, unidentified votes. We also went through this border report showing that there are, well, according to this one estimate, 1.7 million potential national security threats. And then we had a hurricane update. Elon and Booty may have reconciled via a phone call. But now, my friends, let us hear from you. Let's see what you say about all this. I see some great donos. Thank you so much for your love and support. Thanks for becoming membos. And hey, thanks for those of you who joined us at the Defending Democracy Conference today. We spoke this morning, and it was a lot of fun. And I saw some familiar faces out there in the chat. So thanks for coming over and supporting us. Really nice to have you there. It was a fun one and some great material there. So check that out over at the Davos in the Desert group. That was a lot of fun. All right. So who's joining us today? Of course, when we're done here, we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our members only community. We'd also love to see you over there. And we do Saturday streams. So membos, if you became a new YouTube membo or you're a locals membo, we'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream as well. Both platforms. All right, what's up? Hey, and Donut is clipping for us today. Thank you, Donut. We got Becky Osborne here. And look at this nice image. Enjoy the day. Flow with grace. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. What a nice gif from Donut. Very pink, too. Becky, what's up? Becky Osborne. 4 months as a membo. Says prayers for all those affected by the hurricane. Yeah, it's brutal. It's very brutal. Prayers, love, energy. Sending their way all the first responders, all the people impacted. Thank you, Becky, for the sentiments. We've got Milo. Says, isn't it interesting how Zelensky gets $8 billion every time he needs a new roll of toilet paper and Mayorkas spent all the FEMA funds for hurricane victims? Yeah, it's very insane, actually. Think about that. $1 billion is what we're fighting over. And how much did Zelensky get? It's like 180 billion, I think are the numbers. So 180 times what we're even fighting over $1 billion. Just think about that. And I was being jokey and facetious about it. And I know it's a little, inappropriate because of the damage here, but our government and the response, right? The amount of response that should pour in, it should be so overwhelming that, the people are in a better position, actually, is the thing. And the improper phraseology of this, it's like, just to overemphasize the point, is that it should be so competent and so amazing that you joke like, hey, we'll get hit by a hurricane or something, right? Like, that's a bad joke, but you get the point. Something where it's like, wow, the government is so competent. They came in here, they rebuilt all this. There was a bunch of money that poured in. We have a competition, we bring in like all the best tradesmen from all over the country. You get paid quadruple what you get paid back home. You come out, you work for 3 months, you rebuild a whole city, right? And just make it like, whoa, the whole country comes together. It's like a 9/11 type of an event, type of a thing, just to really make sure everybody can get put together very quickly. It's like stimulates the economy. It brings some camaraderie together. It brings out the best of the best. Don't we want that? Is my point on this. And what we get, unfortunately for all of us, is the opposite. We get the opposite of all of that. It's a sad state of affairs. But thank you, Milo, for that. And Zelensky, who even knows where that money's going. Glocky says, I live 20 minutes up the road from Mayfield. When they got hit by the tornado, FEMA was useless. They wouldn't let local folks with tractors come in and help. If you had insurance, they would deny you help. People had to jump through hoops just to get a generator, and they made everyone cleaning up their property separate all trash before they would even pick up because they were worried about recycling in the environment, and a bunch of money disappeared. FEMA is absolute garbage. Yeah, and if they're not capable, what are we funding them for, right? Like, if they can't do anything, why do they need $30 billion a year? Cut them and just let us handle it ourselves, I guess, if they're that bad. And, unfortunately, it seems like it is. But every other entity is pretty much useless, so it fits the pattern. Here's Glocky. Here's the cycle that we all live through. I wake up, Democrats do something blatantly illegal, GOP politicians are outraged, nothing happens, and then I wake up again. And around we go. This is very black pill. I agree. This is something that feels like it does happen a lot. But there's something to this cycle, right? I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And then eventually there will be an ultimate wake up. And I think more and more people are waking up, not in this sense of just waking up and going through the cycle, but waking up. Sheila Poo. 1 million hugs to you. Thanks for being here, Sheila, and bringing in new membos. Hey, Donut got a membo. Modding the fort down for us. Welcome in, Donut. Stephanie Pickering. We got Sean Patrick. Scott Mouse is here. Myra Page. Mike Sue. Philippa C. Beautifully Inappropriate is here. Chinny Wynn and Cheryl Patrick. Gifted membos. Courtesy of Sheila Poo. 1 million hugs to you, Sheila. Thanks for being here. We've got Just Say Something. Hey, thank you, Just Say Something. Great reporting. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Just Say Something. Yeah, the Pennsylvania lawsuit, I think, is when that one came in. Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. And I think I saw that. Oh, from Liz Harrington, I think, is where I originally got the hat tip on that. So Liz Harrington. Shout out to Liz Harrington on X. Sheila Poo says, I knew Pennsylvania was crazy when they voted Fetterman into office despite his stroke. Yeah, I don't really know what went down with that, with Fetterman and Sheila. Sheila Poo, you're not Fetterman. You are sending this comment in. I was talking about Fetterman in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on in Pennsylvania with John Fetterman. Who the hell knows? Thank you for that, Sheila. Adam M., 15 months as a membo, said, I had to turn off restricted mode to watch you on my TV. Membo for 15 months. What? Restricted mode? Why are we restricted? Is it because we talk about Fanny here? Is that why? I don't know what that's all about, Adam. That's interesting. Thanks for that. Hey, Ollie, what's up? Ollie in the house. What's up, Ollie? Gifting 5 new membos. Sketch Therapy is here. Jeff Pearson, welcome. Stephen O. Tino Garza and Eddie Klotz. Gifted membos courtesy of Ollie. Thank you for bringing in the newest of membos, Ollie, in the house. Scott the engineer. 3 months, Scott? 3 months, baby. 1/3 of the way to a baby. Says, thanks for making us all smarter. Thank you, Scott, for doing the same. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we just get an overload of information here, and I absolutely love going through it together. So I right back at you, Scott. Thanks for joining us on this. Just Say Something. Welcome aboard as a supporter. New supporters, new membos. Make sure you grab this morning's members only stream because it was a good one. What's up? Just Say Something. Thanks for becoming a membo. Alan Harkin over on Rumble. What's up, Alan? Says, awesome show as usual. Good to see your subscriptions increasing daily, and it is because you offer very understandable reviews of what can be very complex legal issues. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Alan. Such a nice comment. Alan, such a gentleman. And we appreciate you being over there on Rumble for being a membo. Alan, it is great. I love to see our new friends come and join us. It's a very awesome thing I think we're building here. And I want to report something also here, by the way, my friends. Something that was very cool that happened today is when I was on with Davos at the desert at the event today, and I did see some of you there. The other person who was there was Joe Sweeney. And Joe Sweeney came onto the channel, and he gave an interview of his book, right? We have this book. It's great. I really recommend it. I'm still digging through it. But he was there, and I presented, he presented, and then we had a conversation. Questions came up, and he threw it back to me when he was done presenting and all of it. And he said there to everybody, he said, you have the best community ever. And he said that after he was done, he got hundreds of emails. He's like, I got literally hundreds of emails from your people, right, from us. And everybody was so amazing. He said some of the best questions, and he was just like basically thrilled with the level of dialogue that was happening there. And it was just it was like a proud moment. I'm like, that's us, baby. Like, you know, that's us. That's you. That's us people. Right. And so he got a bunch of emails, and he was excited about it. He was thrilled about it. He's like, you guys are awesome. He sent me a note in the chat. You guys are awesome. I'm like, heck yeah, baby. We got the best people here. I mean, we got really smart folks here and really good people. And so thanks for being you. I thought it was a really nice compliment to you. So wanted to share that. And thank you, Alan, for being a part of that, man. So I appreciate that. It's what we're building, and we're all, I think, hopefully stronger for it. Thank you for that, Alan. Great comment. Voice of the People says, you're not going to believe this, but off-label watchers can confirm. We have brought up most of this and watched the HAVA data. We had this pegged months ago. Check it out, my friends. Get your news way ahead of us here. We're slow as hell, which is true. Takes us like months to figure. Finally. Voice of the People, an off-label podcast. They figured this out months ago. So check out their podcast. They're doing great work over there. We love Voice of the People and the off-label crew. Good to see you, Voice. Thanks for the dono. Says, this info in PA doc was what I wanted to show you a while back. There is more states that need to do this now. From Voice. Well, hopefully they get inspired by these Congress people and your guidance there, Voice. Thanks for that. Nancy Gaetz. What's up, Nancy? Welcome aboard as a new supporter. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream as well. Shane is here saying, like, share, and subscribe this video and hit the notification bell and select the all button and do it immediately. Thank you for that, Shane. Hey, Greg Lear says foreign people are obtaining U.S. IDs and passports without even living in the U.S. They open mailboxes and companies, even utility hookups and false domiciles. People may even fly to the U.S. to get a driver's license. As an online notary, I've seen affidavits with false address histories. Despite efforts to report these issues, They remain unaddressed before the election. I can provide firsthand details. That's just wild. I don't doubt it for a minute, Greg. I'm sure you've seen some interesting stuff. And that's an interesting... I mean, think about Hunter Biden, for example. Think about all the different shell companies that he created. What was he doing? One of the most notorious people in the country, operating criminally in plain sight and being enabled by the people who were supposed to be protecting us against that type of exploitive criminality. It's wild. Thank you, Greg. I'm sure it's true. Knox Bierman, defense attorney in the great state of Texas, is here. Says, TGIF all. I used to be a FEMA volunteer. Once FEMA comes in, everyone else is done. It's like a crime scene. Feds, Trump, state agencies. So you're just all done, right? It's their jurisdiction. You want to help somebody? Go help somebody else. We don't want it. And I think they would make some arguments as to why they need to do that, right? Well, we don't want you to crash into our airplanes or something. But then people say, well, if you were competent, then we'd get out of the way. No problem. Come in here and help. But they're incompetent. So, you're not doing anything. So we have to come in and help, right? I think is the tension there, Knox. But thanks for being a volunteer. I'm sure there are many amazing people in FEMA. We get loose with the language, but I'm sure there's amazing people there who are digging in there, pulling people out of the mud and stuff. It's like just all hands on deck. I get irritated with the leaders at the top in these cases, particularly Buttigieg and Kamala and Mayorkas, for deviating money and resources to things that don't deserve it. And then they claim we're broke all of a sudden. Thanks, Knox. Hey, this one came in from Willie. Willie is here. Says, heading to my first Trump rally tomorrow, baby. Heck yeah. Wait, in Butler? Are you going to Butler, Willie? So Trump's going to be in Butler tomorrow. What time is that going to be happening? All right, let's see. Anyways, we'll look that up. That's going to be awesome, Willie. Hopefully you're going to be there, man, because that's going to be a historic return. It's going to be like Return of the Jedi or something. It's going to be great. Have fun. Hopefully you get in. I don't want to talk about my experience. I don't want to talk about it. No, I don't. I don't want to talk about it. Hey, Vanessa, member for 17 months, says Kanye, Kamala doesn't care about white people. Yeah, where's Kanye? Honestly, that would be so epic if he came out and said that. He should say that. Like that would go so viral instantly, wouldn't it? And he should get Mike Myers to stand right next to him too. Kamala Harris doesn't care about white people. And Mike Myers can look at him like, what? Commercial. Remember that? He should. Kanye would, it'd be part of a comeback, I think. It would be epic. All right, what's up? Willie, thanks for that. Knox is here. Says, Kamala said people can apply online for assistance with electricity. She doesn't even understand the internet is run on electricity. They're like, yeah, just visit the FEMA website. You're like, with what? Cell phone, computer, internet connection, or electricity? Kamala, are you kidding? You just go online. You can apply for it. It's easy. We'll send you a check. Just go online. Just check your bank account. Oh, yeah. With what computer? Hey, Ray K, 32 months as a membo, Ray K. That's amazing, man. That is what? It's coming up on 4 babies. Oh my goodness. That's a lot, Ray K. So amazing to see Elon and Trump working together. I agree with you. I agree. I think it's going to be powerful. And if they're both on the stage together tomorrow in Butler, it's going to be a beautiful photo op. It's going to be nice to see them together. Chubby's here. Says, I guarantee that the response from Mayorkas will be heavily redacted. If not the numbers themselves, everything else will be, so that we can all we can see is the numbers and not what they are related to. That's just DOJ standard operating procedures these days. That's over from Chubby in the House. Glocky says the following, says, Fort Bragg is right there, and they have units on division ready. Force 1 and 2 hour recall and anywhere in the world in 18 hours. Biden could literally pick up a phone. All regiments have a red phone. We call it a bat phone. When it rings, you're going somewhere. Order them in with all their support elements. That's kind of what I'm envisioning, right? It's like you come in and you just, I don't know, it's all hands on deck. It's like a warlike response is what I meant. It's like everybody comes in and everybody is helped and supported, and you actually leave the place better than it was before. right? That's that's the level of response for our own countrymen. Like, what else is our government there for if they can't do something like that? It should be like an insurance policy for our own citizens, or else we don't need it. Like, what are they there for then? Why do they need $30 billion? They don't. They're terrible at the response. So maybe they should have $2 billion. Sheila Poo, 10 membos, Sheila. Well, that is just so nice of you. Thank you for bringing in 10 new membos. Sheila's bringing in Jessica C. We got Sir Sodium, Gnarly Jim, the Nephilim Art Project. What's up, CL? Chillaxin is here. Jim Gerard. We got Steph Ard, Laura Soto, and Brian Howell, gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in new friends. And speaking of new friends, I'm Too Tweaked says, thanks for the membo last night. Love you all. Been a membo for 3 months. Got gifted another membo. Stringing together the membos. And this one from Knox Bierman, thank you, Knox, says, rumors of lithium deposits in these areas. It has also been noted that Hollywood types flocked to New Orleans during Katrina. Poor white people are less lovable, apparently. Oh, that's interesting. Well, and New Orleans with Katrina, Bush was in charge. So if a Republican's in charge, then the response from the Republicans in charge is devastating. They're terrible. They're incompetent. I mean, the Republicans are doing the same thing right now, right? The federal government's terrible and incompetent. And quite frankly, I think they're both probably right. Like, I think probably FEMA during Katrina was also probably not great because it's a big, gigantic government bureaucracy that's not good at doing stuff like this. Now, was George Bush a racist against black people? Like, no, there was no evidence of that, but they turned it into that because that's what they do. And, you know, there's seems like they're doing it again, right? They're exploiting it for political purposes. Again, they did that during Katrina, and they are exploiting it again this year for their election, as we talked about with Axelrod. Very convenient. Hey, what's up, Mike? Mike Rhett Soch with a nice red dono in the house. Thank you, Mike, for sending it in. Not even asking a question, but look at all these comments back your way. Based, triple fires. Wow. Holy cow. You're amazing, Mike, from Jennifer. Stacy says, wow. Studley says 24/7 live. Just Rhonda. What's up, Just Rhonda? It's nice to see Just Rhonda is in the chat. We had a technical problem earlier today. Oh my, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Mike. Really nice of you to do that. Really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting us and our team and the work that we're doing. Very nice of you to stop by and to make that dono. We got Les L. Says, hi, RG. I feel guilty bugging you for your virtue. You read comments. Could you message Megyn Kelly, Sean Spicer et al.? Harris ads claim her uniter. We need ads in Georgia showing how wrong this is. Well, I don't think they're the proper party for those things. I think the people who should hear about this less are probably the campaign people, right? Like Chris LaSavita and some of the others. And so I think even maybe a public campaign on that, right? Just posting it on X about it and just tagging them is probably the best way to do it. I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to reach out to Megyn Kelly and say, Megyn, hello, can you please pass this message along to someone else? I think that she probably has other things to worry about in that vein, but certainly spreading the message here, I think, is hopefully creating some awareness about the topic. But I think what you're looking for is like a decision maker who is just going to make that decision. And I think the only way that that's going to ultimately happen from our perspective is if there's either somebody who has a lever of power in order to make that decision. But I appreciate the tenacity on this, Les. Says, Rob, don't want to wreck your collegial friendships, but what if it's a 2020 red fizzle redux? Online ads are a thing left on the table right now in Georgia. And you know, Les, now that you mentioned that comment, there was an article headline that I was reading earlier, and let's see if I can find out where that was very briefly, because I saw, yeah, here it is, actually. Here you go. So, Les, maybe this is an explanation for you. All right, this is what I pulled over from, I found this originally from Citizen Free Press. It's this link right here. Deep dive. Team Trump's unconventional approach to turn out the vote. So I don't think that they're running ads. So I don't think there's anything I can do or Megyn Kelly can do or anybody else can do that can really convince them to do this. I think it's a pretty probably baked in strategy at this point. Here's the article from CNN, okay? Here's Trump's ground game relies on untraditional strategies to draw out battleground voters. So they're probably just not going to spend. When absentee ballots first landed, this is a conventional strategy, and Trump's team has tossed it aside, all right? They're not doing the traditional stuff. Nope. Targeting irregular voters, teaching supporters to surveil polling places. This is the machine that Trump has built. It's a gamble Trump's campaign acknowledges, but one they insist is built on data that they've collected. And that tens of millions of dollars via super PACs, the campaign's untraditional strategy, also was about 10x votes. Tucker Carlson's telling people to download it. There's also election integrity training. Someone said it's political malpractice to relitigate 2020. So my point is, I don't think that they're going to just change gears and start spending in Georgia unless it's part of a broader strategy. But I appreciate your sounding the alarm on it. I just think that there's probably some more that we're not seeing there. Online ads are a thing left on the table right now in Georgia. All right, so listen to that, Trump campaign. Thank you, Les. Neoe is here, bringing in 5 new membos. Virginia Hobbies here. Baby Cakes 420. Hello Kidden is here. Wood Spirit and Alucard SRH gifted membos courtesy of Neowie, who's a membo. Thank you, Neowie, for bringing in 5 new membos. We'll see everybody on the membos only stream in the morning. Knox is here. Says, how was Davos in the desert? It was fun. It was really fun. There were some good speakers there. I thought the person who went before me was Brian Blem. Remember Brian Blem? He was the attorney who fought in the Kerry Lake battle. And so I got to listen to him speak as well. And then Joe Sweeney was awesome. It was a great event. So thanks, Knox, for asking about it. And appreciate everybody who joined us over there. Woodchip Bill says, smash that like button, baby. We would appreciate that. That would be very nice of you to do that. And one day I'll be that cool. Stacy Milliken says, I've said it before. I'll say it again. You're awesome. You brought so many amazing people into my life. Well, thank you, Stacy. I'm glad that happened to you. Also, you're good at this. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Stacy. What a nice comment. I appreciate the compliment. I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know. Oftentimes I don't know what the hell we're doing here. We're figuring it out. Hey, what's up? Les L says 15-second ad persuading independents might be simple. For example, Kamala Harris is a career partisan. She has never reached across the aisle. Don't believe Kamala's last-minute promise of change. Thanks. Yeah. We'll see if you're right, Les. I'm supporting your position on this, that I'm seeing a ton of Kamala ads. Okay, I go to the gym and it's just ad. It's like mostly Kamala ads. From all different packs. Like sometimes I'll see 2 or 3 strung together in between. They usually are playing like The Walking Dead or something. And every commercial in between is just the same. But they've got another plan. I don't know exactly how it's working, but that's what CNN's reporting. Thank you for that, Les. The electrical company I work for does all the FEMA hurricane relief work, usually setting up generators until power is restored. We got an email as the storm was hitting, asking for volunteers to go out of town. The next day, we got an email saying FEMA has canceled the call. This is unusual, especially with this amount of power outage. We were in New York for 6 months for Sandy. Wow, that's an interesting report. Thank you, DeHook. Why would FEMA cancel the call? Interesting report, DeHook. Thanks for that. And thanks for being part of these restoration teams. I mean, that's awesome work. We appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that with us. Hey, Mango the Sky Puppy says, hey, welcome aboard. Mango the Sky Puppy became a supporter over on the YouTubes. Knox says, FEMA isn't what it used to be, Robert. FEMA now makes grilled cheese Sammys for migrants. Yeah. Well, I guess it is an emergency for their bellies. We don't want them to be hungry in their new home. What's up? This old guy says, I'm particularly puzzled by the reports that the FAA established restricted airspace due to rescue air traffic. Instead, they should be concentrating air traffic control personnel in managing the airspace appropriately. ADSB makes it possible, and they certainly are able to do it in Chicago and New York. It's going to be a problem. You think? Well, then let's just close the airspace and eliminate the problem. Disgusted. And good job at Davos, Rob. Hey, you were there, this old guy? Yeah, there were some people there I didn't recognize the names because I think it was like your real name. But thanks for being there, this old guy. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Got some good stuff out of there. And thanks for supporting them, too, and their efforts. As you can see, they brought a lot of people together, and that's a lot of work. So we were glad to be there and to support them. But, yeah, it's interesting. It's like, is it hitting... Is it overkill? Like, just close airspace, or can you be smarter about it so that private people can still go and help people? I'm not an air traffic controller, so I won't even pretend to have the knowledge of that, but it sounds like you know what you're talking about, ADSB and some other acronyms there. So thanks, this old guy. And I think your concerns are being echoed and mirrored on X. People are saying the same things. Like, why can't we just go help people? Like, we can see them right there. Let us land. Just let us land. We have power right here. Steve Lee. What's up, Steve Lee? We got a new baby in the house. Steve Lee says it took years to make this totally gifted baby. Wow. Steve Lee. 9 months of gifts for a full baby. That is just awesome. It's like a phenomenon, I think, that happens in our chat. It's amazing. You guys are awesome. Thanks for doing that, Steve. Thanks for being here, man, for 9 months and for having a baby with the chat with us. Jeffrey Adams says, Rob, FEMA does not have worker people, okay? They are managers and administrators who hire the real workers. That sounds much more like it, yeah. Like they contract people who can actually build and construct things. I don't know. I really don't, FEMA. I can tell you this. Big, gigantic government bureaucracies who promise that they can fix things for us have a long pattern of failing, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Michael Stetson, 17 months as a membo, says poor management is poor management. Parties be damned. Exactly, right, yeah. So that was my point about FEMA and Bush. Like, I'm sure the FEMA response to Katrina was probably not good because it's a big, gigantic government, and it's a hurricane. Like, that's the other part of this. Like, it's a hurricane. So it's going to be bad. So they should know that, and we should be over-engineered for a hurricane that's going to come through. It's not like COVID that pops out of nowhere. It's not like 9/11, which is engineered by the deep state, probably. The HARP and all the things. I don't know. Maybe it's engineered hurricane. I don't know. Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to think so. But yeah, it's just a giant bureaucracy. Hey, Les says, thanks for the explanation, RG. I don't know that I gave you much of one, but they are doing unconventional things. So I wonder if unconventional strategy is working in the Rust Belt, but per polls, it's not working in Georgia. Yeah, and so this is a good point, Les L. It's interesting that you're bringing this up because I saw another headline that had some relation to that headline that said that the Kamala ad team was feeling good about their ads. In other words, they were dialing their ads in. And gosh, where did I see that? I can't remember, but I think it had to do with abortion. Like they found their ad hit that was resonating really well. And I think it was abortion with a bunch of women, or, like literally like women, like they just played women. And then those were becoming more effective. Hey, C. John, 19 months as a membo. Thanks for that, C. John. Says FEMA denied my employee assistance because they said the county was not a recognized area, even though we're still out of power and major damage in the area. Well, I guess you should have been hurricaned harder, C. John, and then FEMA would care about you. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully you're plugged in, you're getting connected with people. And hopefully this public pressure on FEMA, realistically, causes them to reverse on some of that stuff and provide the support that they should be providing to their own countrymen. All right, let's see who's on X, my friends. and see who's joining us over there before we wrap it up and go on over to locals, watching thewatchers.locals.com if you want to come join us. Membos get to join us tomorrow on our Saturday only members stream, and we'd love to have you do that. Paul Mino, our meme smith on X, has a meme. This person says, we need to help the hurricane victims. FEMA says, sorry, we're low on cash. He says, fine, government loser, I'll do it myself. FEMA says, oh yeah? Try it. We'll arrest you. It's a good one from Paul. What's up? B. Torn is over there. Hey, Fred Pedamonte says, my dog Musa. What's up, Musa, in the house. Love the show tonight. Musa. What a real good boy. What's up? Shakers is here. Says, I'm so sad you can laugh about the state of our government because your laughter keeps me from crying. Thanks for that, Shakes. That's a funny one. Yeah. I mean, it could be just gallows hystericism or something. You know, we're just kind of losing it because it's just so, I'm just kidding. We're going to win in the end. We're not black-pilled there yet. All right. Good comments over on X. Thanks for sending those in, my friends. We are going to head on over to locals. Tony DeMarco sent this one in. Says, Michael Yon is basically saying the hurricane response is a prelude to Americans being eliminated and replaced. He's a combat correspondent. And Viva interviewed him. Man, shout out to Viva. Green Beret. Says, North Carolina is Gaza in America. His X account is wild. Sounds like a good one, Michael Yon. I might follow him, but I'm not sure. Thank you, Tony D. All right, and so that's where we're going. We're going over to locals right now. We're going to hang out. We're going to debrief, take a couple other comments, and say hello to our locals friends. My plan tomorrow is to do the members stream in the morning. I know that Trump is doing a rally in Butler, and so that's going to be a very interesting one. If you're looking for something to watch, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch cooking around that tomorrow because it will be a historic return. We're looking forward to that. But my friends, it's been a heck of a week. We've covered a lot of ground this week. We read through Jack Smith's entire report and watched a lot of things, and it's been a lot of fun. So thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. I hope your week was outstanding. I hope your weekend is even better. Hopefully, you're able to get outside, get some fresh air, spend some time with the people that you love, our family, our friends, and others. It's been a beautiful, tremendous week. We are going to leave it there on the day and make it a great weekend. But we're coming back here on Monday to get into it again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.